All right, so we're picking up with Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play as we study the idea of God as mother. And we are on chapter 33, just starting it, titled Further Glimpses of Holy Mother. And beginning in hymn by Swami Abhedanandi says, "She whose life's story is pure, whose character is pure, who is the very embodiment of purity, to that Holy Mother we offer salutations again and again." Greatness knows itself. In this world, some are born great, some achieve greatness through hard work. It is wrong to believe that money makes a person great. It is a person who makes himself or herself great. In fact, it is the inner noble qualities of a person that make him or her great. This is that idea of character, in a person, that is what greatness is. Someone who has a strong sense of integrity, a strong sense of honesty, a strong sense of egolessness in that sense. Because in Christian, in not in spiritual literature, when you use the word pure, in Christian context, it often means anti-sex sort of thing, or just not sexual. But in the pure definition of pure, it means an absolute absence of any selfishness whatsoever, any me or mine in there. And so when you have a spiritual person that's been being described as pure, it means that they just have no selfish intention or impetus for action at all. Like a Ramakrishna or a Jesus or a Buddha. And even those are relative because you have to have at least a hair in your pudding in order to manifest. There has to be manifestation is limitation. And so, we know that because where did we read that yesterday? Born in freedom, sustained in bondage, and returning to freedom. It's the nature of the universe. So it's born in freedom, which means it comes from no attributes. It comes from the one without a second, into bondage, meaning that it gets defined, it gets boundaries and edges and things become separated. So it's sustained in bondage and then returns to freedom when the bonds are broken or removed in the dissolution. So a person who's being called pure here is a person of immensely great character, which is indicated by a complete lack of ego, to the extent possible, of being out of ego. In the Chandogya Upanishad, Narada practiced many spiritual disciplines and was endowed with vast learning. Yet he was mentally afflicted on account of his ignorance of the self. So he went to the sage Sanat Kumara, a knower of Brahman, to learn the knowledge of self. Sanat Kumara gave Narada 21 instructions and lifted his mind from the lower to the higher plane, and finally to the highest point, the infinite. Sanat Kumara described the infinite thus: the infinite is bliss. There is no bliss in anything finite. Where one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, understands nothing else, that is the infinite. The infinite is immortal. Narada asked, "Venerable Sir, in what does the infinite find its support?" Sanat Kumara replied, "In its own greatness." Holy Mother was born with divine greatness, and she shone in her own greatness, right? Which means when they would say something, they didn't need to mark it with a reference, right? And this was one of my this is what shook my world actually when I first encountered Vedanta. In particular, I was walking with a Swami whose name I don't know, who was in Mayavati, the center up in the mountains, the Himalayas, that the order runs. And I was walking with him in '99 when I was over there, for a couple months. I would walk with him in the afternoons, and he would talk about God. Now, mind you, I wasn't a Vedantin at that point, or I had just gotten my initiation within weeks before that. So I had no real knowledge, and I hadn't really talked with any swamis except for Moksha Prana and a couple of other quick conversations. But I was walking with him, and he would just talk about God, and always come to a point of tears where he would in the conversation, and we would walk for like an hour. And I was always so mesmerized by it. And I remember coming back to my room at the monastery there in Mayavati and telling Philip, I said, Philip, it is so beautiful to talk to him about God because he talks about God like he knows him. I said, never in my life have I heard anybody tell me anything about God where they didn't use a reference. Like, oh, in John 14:3 it says, or in Romans 8:28 it says this, or every single time in my life up until that moment, anytime anybody told me anything about God, it always had a reference attached to it. And it was so stunningly refreshing and new to me to talk to somebody who didn't need references, who hadn't heard of God through something else, or hadn't learned something about God through a text. And I think this is what comes to mind to me when he's talking about Holy Mother and the infinite kind of being established in their own greatness. That it's the greatness of Holy Mother's character, the purity of her love and her service, and the evidence that just her life gives her as a person, that is her support. That is the reason we listen to her, the reason that we are enamored of her and are following her teachings. And so just this idea of having that kind of integrity in yourself, so that you, defined by your very own being, defined by your own commitment to your inner integrity and your inner humility and all of the virtues that are born of that, that's what makes a person great. That what makes a person awesome. What makes a person pure is to do all of that without a sense of ego about it, to do all of that without owning it as your own, but simply being it because it's what you are. Right. Holy Mother was born with divine greatness, and she shone in her own greatness. What makes a person great? In this world, people become great by vast learning, physical beauty, enormous wealth, overwhelming oratory, striking leadership, scientific invention, marvelous adventures, attractive acting, prolific writing, wonderful singing, skilled dancing, astonishing bravery, spectacular athletic skills, and so on. Holy Mother did not gain greatness through any of the above. She shone in her own glory. What made her great? Her maternal affection for humanity attracted people. Her pure character and glowing renunciation were awe-inspiring. Her simplicity and her modesty were majestic. Her passion for truth and self-control, overwhelming. Her sympathy and empathy touched many suffering and bereaved hearts. Her compassion and forgiveness saved many wayward souls. Her patience and perseverance were phenomenal. Her conversations, her manners, they were sweet and dignified. Her common sense and skill in action set the example for others. Her practical advice on the worldly plane and spiritual advice on the spiritual plane were extremely effective. And her sense of duty and unselfish service were the model for all. Holy Mother was the Divine Mother, and she was endowed with all divine qualities. Wherever she lived, she created such a spiritual atmosphere that everyone around her felt like they were living in a blissful abode. Swami Nikhilananda, a disciple of Holy Mother, gave us a description of Holy Mother's physical appearance. Holy Mother was well built for a Hindu woman of Bengal. She had a fair complexion, was of medium height, though in several of her photographs she gives the impression of being rather tall. The soles of her feet were ruddy. Her thick black hair, which Yogan Ma used to braid, almost reached her knees. Before Sri Ramakrishna's death, she usually wore a white sari and a wide red border. She also wore some gold jewelry that the master had given her, two bracelets for her upper arms, bangles for her wrists, a necklace, earrings, and a nose ring. When the master gave her these ornaments, he said to Hriday jokingly, "I suppose that's all there is to my relationship with her." As already mentioned, after wearing them a short while, she discarded most of them. After the master's death, she wore a single gold bracelet on each wrist. Speaking of her own appearance, she once remarked, "I was rather pretty in my youth. Later I became a little stout." Women often were struck by by her physical beauty. As Golab Ma said, she looked like a goddess. While meditating, she appeared to be radiant. Swami Premananda's mother once asked her, "Mother, where did you get such celestial beauty and charm?" Once Sri Ramakrishna compared her to Saraswati, a goddess of exquisite beauty and grace. Her fair complexion later became somewhat dark. By the time she was 50, when most of her disciples saw her, she had again become slim from repeated attacks of malaria at Jairambati and appeared to be somewhat pale. Toward the end of her life, she developed a slight stoop and often limped because of rheumatism. Holy Mother's immaculate purity, her unceasing meditation and prayer, her all-embracing compassion and utter selflessness endowed her with the delicacy and tenderness of a maiden, a subtle grace and a quiet dignity, and withal guilelessness and simplicity. Her innate motherliness put visitors at ease. To a person coming to her for the first time, she conveyed the feeling that she had been eagerly waiting for him. Holy Mother always inspired reverence, but never gave a feeling of remoteness. During her later years, on rare occasions, a superficial observer would be deceived by her unassuming manner. Holy Mother, unlike any other Orthodox Hindu widow, wore, after the Master's death, a sari with a narrow red border, using it as a skirt, a blouse, and a veil. Before strangers, she covered herself practically from head to foot with an additional white cotton chador. Once during the cold season, she was given a thin woolen undershirt. She expressed pleasure at this gift and used it for 3 days. On the fourth day, she took it off and said to the devotees, "Is it proper for a woman to wear a shirt? I put it on for 3 days just to please you." Holy Mother observed some of the caste rules. Like a Hindu widow, she was a vegetarian, but again, unlike a Hindu widow, she did not cut her hair. She wore gold bracelets. She wore a sari with a narrow red border and ate a light supper at night. Those were all things that were forbidden to widows in those days. Ashu Mitra wrote, "We always saw the mother wearing a sari with a narrow red border. This is an idea that though for a widow, there was really no decoration. She no longer decorated herself for appearance because her husband had passed. And in that society at that time, the remarriage was not allowed. And so you had one husband and one wife for your life. And when they were gone, they were gone. And for the woman, inexplicably, it's one of the things that as a Westerner, we just look and kind of can't even imagine it, how difficult and stringent the rules were for women who were widowed. They weren't allowed to work. They weren't, they had to shave their heads. They couldn't wear jewelry. They could only wear a plain white sari. There was just so many rules for them that made it almost impossible for them to live. Which is why some of them chose to die with their husbands when they went. And so a lot of that has been alleviated and taken away. But Holy Mother was around during those times, but she didn't participate in that. As a matter of fact, she was going to tear the border off of her white saris and put away her gold bangles. But Master appeared to her. He said, "What are you doing? Do you think I'm dead? I just moved to the other room. And so he told her, "You keep the red sari. Don't shave your head and wear your jewelries. I'm still here, and you are not a widow." And so it's quite a beautiful uh, indication, I guess, there. Ashu Mitra wrote, "We always saw the mother wearing a sari with a narrow red border. Most of the devotees would supply that type of cloth for her. She wore two diamond-cut gold bangles on her wrists and a Rudraksha rosary strung with a gold chain around her neck. There were 108 small Rudraksha beads in that rosary, which was made during the time of Swami Yogananda. By the time we knew her, those Rudraksha beads were worn out and the chain was broken. So a new Rudraksha rosary with a gold chain was made for her. She wore an iron ring in the middle on the middle toe of each foot to relieve her rheumatism. Generally, biographers write about noteworthy events, marvelous achievements, and amazing stories that take place in the public life of great personalities. They skip the daily routine, the trifling events, and relationships with friends and family. As a result, readers do not get a full picture of that person. As human beings, we relate to the human aspects of divine personalities. Otherwise, how could we understand the infinite Lord? It is impossible to comprehend God with our impure minds and our puny intellects. The Mundaka Upanishad describes the cosmic being. The heavens are his head, the sun and moon his eyes, the four quarters of the earth his ears, the revealed Vedas is his speech, the wind is his breath, the universe his heart. From his feet is produced the earth. He is indeed the inner self of all beings. When we read this verse, we become afraid to love that superhuman being, or that supreme being, sorry, whose eyes are the sun and moon. We cannot imagine approaching him or establishing a relationship with him. For that reason, we need Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and other great teachers of the world who can speak to our hearts and guide us along the path of blessedness. This chapter provides some further glimpses of Holy Mother that reveal some facets of her private life, her interpersonal relationships, her love and concern for others, her surroundings, her methods of teaching, and so on. These brief and seemingly insignificant incidents draw us close to the Mother, and we get a chance to see her human side vividly. Observing all these things, we feel that she is not a goddess sitting in heaven, but a human being like us moving on this earth. To a lover, every detail of the beloved's life is important because it brings more familiarity, more feeling, more awareness, more love, and joy. The light shines in the darkness. Jesus said, "I am the way, I am the light. Those who follow me shall not walk in darkness." John wrote, "The light shines in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." Holy Mother's life is the beacon light in this age, but few people understood her during her lifetime. Now her exemplary life stories and inspiring teachings are spreading throughout the world. People of the East and West are receiving solace and succor from her divine life. In the fall of 1914, Nilkanta Chakrabarti visited Jairambati with his wife and a relative. He had already been initiated by Holy Mother, and during this visit, Holy Mother initiated his wife. While in the area, they also wanted to see the Master's birthplace in Karmarpur. In the morning, Holy Mother sent with them some fruit and vegetables for offering to Raghuvir, the family deity. Shivaram, the Master's nephew, received them cordially, fed them, and showed them the places connected with the Master. In the afternoon, he showed them Manik Raja's mango orchard, where the Master used to play with his friends when he was a boy. Nilkanta recalls, "We spent a long time with Shibuda in the mango orchard, listening to stories of the Master. We left Karmarpur in the late afternoon and arrived in Jairambati in the late evening. From a distance, we saw a person standing with a kerosene lantern in hand on the road near the Banerjee's pond, on the southern outskirts of the village. When we drew close, we saw an incredible sight that overwhelmed us with wonder and joy. We remained speechless as we were late. The loving and compassionate mother was concerned. She was standing on the village road alone, waiting for us. I exclaimed, Mother, you're here. She replied in her affectionate and calm voice, My son, I was anxious about you. You are from a far off place. The night is very dark. There is every possibility of going in the wrong direction. I asked someone to go to the crossroads, but he declined. So I have come here myself to wait for you. Hmm. We were dumbfounded. Is there anything to compare with this love? I feel that she is my eternal mother, my mother of birth after birth, my own mother. What a lovely idea. I mean, immediately I had to pause for a moment there because I just got this beautiful understanding of like any time that we meet a crossroad, in our spiritual walk, any time that we get to a place where we have to make a decision, right or wrong, left or right, uh, to know that this image of mother standing there with a lantern, anxious and desirous for us to make the right move, the right decision. What a lovely, what a lovely image to have in my quiver. To think of mother like that, taking her as strength. She is our own mother, a unique mother here, because I like this how he says, She is my eternal mother, the mother of my birth after birth, right? So your earthly mother may be your mother, but she's the mother of your one birth. But the divine mother is the mother of your every birth. The wonder of wonders. Sometimes an artist is amazed when she sees her own wonderful painting because while working on it, she forgot space and time and became identified with it. When she returns to the conscious plane, she sees the wonders of her artwork. Although Holy Mother was the mother of the universe, sometimes she was bewildered by the things of this world. However, she enjoyed her ignorance as a human being. In March of 1881, she came to Calcutta from Jairambati with her mother and her brother Prasanna, staying briefly at an apartment that Prasanna rented in Kansaripara. She recalled, I'd never seen a water tap before I first came to Calcutta. I went to the bathroom, turned on the water tap, and I heard hissing, like the sound of a snake coming through it. Because in India, sometimes the pipes are empty, there's not water there yet. And when you turn them on, the air pressure, between the water in the pipe and the spout will hiss out from there. I turned on the water tap and I heard a hissing sound like a snake coming through it. Terrified, I ran from the bathroom and told the ladies, Please come and see. A snake has entered the pipe and it's making a hissing sound. They laughed and said, Look, there's no snake there. Don't be afraid. The air pressure makes that hissing sound before the water comes. I laughed heartily with them. Now and then Holy Mother acted like a simple and unsophisticated village girl. As people enjoy a child's innocence, so the disciples and devotees were delighted by Holy Mother's charming ignorance regarding worldly affairs. Swami Gaurishwarananda wrote, At that time, there were few educated people in Jairambati. 2 or 4 among the women could read or write their names in Bengali. Holy Mother said, A girl has been married to a boy in the Banerjee family. She is from Calcutta and she knows how to wind a watch. The mother was amazed that the girl was so intelligent that she could wind a watch. In Jairambati. So you guys should appreciate me. I can wind a watch. In Jairambati, of course, I'd have to find a watch that you'd have to wind at this point. In Jairambati, she had never seen any woman with a BA or an MA degree or a girl wearing a wristwatch. As mathematics perplexed the mother, so machinery puzzled Holy Mother. Swami Sharadeshananda wrote, The mother had the power to completely transform the human heart. I'm glad that's there. That's beautiful. Holy Mother had the power to completely transform the human heart. the subtlest mechanism with a mere glance, but it was a very difficult task for her to handle the simple mechanism of a hurricane lantern. In Jairambati, she had an antique hurricane lantern, and its chimney was protected by a wire net. It was extremely difficult for her to remove the chimney from the hurricane lamp for cleaning, to open the cap and to fill it with kerosene, and to wind the knob to set the wick. you know, I, I'm failing the test for intelligence apparently because I would not have been able to do any of that either. So she would ask someone to clean the hurricane lantern. She was more accustomed to using an oil lamp on a stand and a small kerosene lamp. She praised the skill and cleverness of the women who could handle the hurricane lantern. She said, "Oh, how many things they know! How quickly they set the kerosene lamp right." But Holy Mother loved to learn new things. Swami Gaurishwarananda continues, when the mother had completed the lessons of part 1 of Varna Parache, the primary book, and she had gone on to learn the first line of part 2, Aikya, unity, and Manikya, jewels, and Kavakya, bad or obscene words, Hriday snatched the book from her hands, declaring, "Too much learning is not good for women. It has an adverse effect on their character, leading them to enter into clandestine correspondence with men and to read plays and novels." Such was the state of Mother's education. What was wonderful, however, was the mother's consummate mastery of spiritual knowledge despite being hardly literate. I was only an adolescent then, the mother's education being limited to Kuvakya. I used to have misgivings about her ability to answer the varied questions that devotees, monks, and brahmacharis brought to her. I wondered why they did not take their queries to the venerable swamis at Bellarmine, Swami Brahmananda or Shivananda, Sharadananda or the others, who were adept in the scriptures. But the mother never told them, "Oh, go ask Rakal or Tarak or Sharat for the answers to their questions." She used to listen to everyone's questions, and her answers were such that all doubts were resolved. Being too young, I neither understood their questions nor the Holy Mother's answer to them, but I saw that all the questioners went away obviously satisfied. Whenever copies of the Udbodhan and Tattva Manjari magazines arrived, the mother would inquire, "Is there any article by Sharat?" If so, she would ask me to read it aloud. Once a Sanskrit hymn was published in the Tattva Manjari. When I read it out to her, the mother said, "Translate it for me into Bengali." I did not know the meaning of Deshikendram and some other words, and there being no dictionary at hand, I said, "I do not know the meaning of some words. I shall ask the meanings from our Sanskrit teacher in the school, and then I shall tell you." She did not, however, give up. "Tell me as much as you have understood," she persisted. The mother was a perfectionist, and she had a keen eye for detail. One day I sprinkled water on sal leaf plates, shook them, and then placed them on the veranda for lunch. Watching me work, the mother said, "Oh no, my son, my children will eat on them. First wash those leaf plates nicely, otherwise there will be dust on them." When I was well, I used to wash each leaf and wipe it with a cloth. Another day I was placing the asanas at mealtime. The mother saw it from the veranda and told me, "The asanas are not set straight." I rearranged them a little. Even then she said, "No, they're still not straight." When I could not find my mistakes, she came forward and set them correctly. Then I saw that all the asanas had been placed parallel to each other, equidistant, their fronts presenting a straight line. That's welcome to monastic life. Ashu Mitra wrote about an interesting event. Once we printed some photos of Holy Mother from the studio of a European photographer. I gave one copy to the mother to see. She took it with both hands and then touched it with her forehead. Seeing her childlike action, I suppressed my laughter. When she returned the photo, I asked her, "Mother, whose photo is this?" And like a simple girl, she replied, "Why, it is my picture." I laughed. She asked, "Why are you laughing?" I replied, "Why did you salute it by touching it to your head?" She also laughed and finally said, "The master dwells in that." It's little details like that that you just see she never forgot. She was never absent-minded about these important, tiny details that just seemed like tiny details to me, to us. But they were their statements of the truth and how deep it had gone in her, that she would see a photograph and salute it because of the master's. She knew the master inhabited that body in the photograph, even though it wasn't even his body, it was her body. And she still recognized the master inhabited that. Even for a picture like that, a casual looking at a picture, she knew. Holy Mother's language. We do not have any recordings of Holy Mother's voice, but several disciples and devotees wrote down many of her teachings and also their reminiscences of her. From their memoirs, we have come to know that Holy Mother spoke to the Calcutta devotees in formal Bengali mixed with colloquialisms and used the rural language of Jairambati area when she was with her relatives and the people from the village. Before we discuss the charm of Holy Mother's language, it is important to understand the difference between colloquial Bengali and the formal literary language. Children learn their colloquial mother tongue from their parents, friends, and relatives, but they learn formal literary versions from books and from teachers in school. Since Holy Mother never learned formal Bengali in a school, her language was just simple and sweet. Her words were clear and charming. Her examples were apt and beautiful. Her descriptions were poetic and graphic. Goodness, he gets on these little lists sometimes. They just go on and on. Her descriptions were poetic and graphic. Her ideas were profound and meaningful. Her style of conversation was original and captivating. Her pronunciation was like that of the people of the Bankura district of Bengal. For example, she produced N in the place of L. She said Natu in the place of Latu. Kishtanal for Krishtanal. Kanjinal for Kanjilal. Nalit for Lalit. People all loved her endearing mispronunciations. She also used pet names for her closest disciples. For example, she called Jogan Maharaj Chele, boy Jogan, boy Jogan. Yogan Ma was May Yogan, girl Yogan, and Gauri Ma was Gordasi. She addressed her male disciples and devotees as Baba, meaning my son, and her female disciples and devotees as Ma or Mai, meaning my child or my daughter. She always called the master's monastic disciples and her monastic disciples by their pre-monastic names. She explained to Swami Avyananda, "You see, I am their mother. It hurts my heart to say their monastic names." She always referred to Ramakrishna as Thakur, meaning master. Sometimes the mother's sentences were short and cryptic, mixed with elegant and colloquial Bengali phrases. Some of her village patois was not clearly understandable to the people from Calcutta. Her words were forceful and powerful, her conversation sweet and charming, and her teachings meaningful and inspiring because she spoke only the truth. And truth is ever fresh and never becomes old. Although the mother's teachings are almost 100 years old, they still inspire millions of people all over the world. We may translate her conversations and teachings into English and make an effort to convey the meaning to the readers, but it is almost impossible to express the beauty and mood, the similes and metaphors, and the idioms and proverbs of her language. Some writers have tried to translate the teachings of the Mother literally, but those translations are not always understandable and readable, especially to Westerners. Of course, no translation can do full justice to the original. All right. Some original expressions of Holy Mother. Holy Mother was not a literary person, but some of her words and similes, comments, and descriptions were original and profound. It is extremely difficult to translate her words and expressions into English, and it is impossible to convey the flavor, the freshness and beauty of her original language. Here we cite some examples. In 1899, when Swami Yogananda passed away, Holy Mother cried out, "A brick has come out of the building, now the whole thing will come down." In 1911, when Swami Ramakrishnananda passed away, the grief-stricken mother said, "Alas, Shashi is gone, my back is broken." In 1911, when Nivedita died, she expressed her grief by saying, "All creatures cry for a great soul." In 1918, when Premananda died, the mother lamented, saying, "Baburam was dearest to my heart. All the energy, devotion, and wisdom of Bellarmat were embodied in my Baburam, and walked there on the bank of the Ganges." Ashu once fell sick in Jairambati, and Holy Mother took care of him. Deeply moved, he asked, "Mother, shall I receive your affection all through my life?" She replied, "Yes, my son. In my love there is no ebb tide or flood tide." Observing the greed and selfishness of her family members, she one day exclaimed, "Look, I am a lotus that has bloomed in the dump site." About Swami Sharadananda, she remarked, "Sharat is like my Vasuki, which is a mythical thousand-hooded snake. It is said that he protected the newborn baby Krishna from the rain by spreading his huge hood over him." Swami Sharananda remarked, "Sharat is my Vasuki, engaged in thousands of activities. Whenever rain pours, he spreads his umbrella to protect me." One year in Guru Purnima, the monks and brahmacharins came to pay their homage to Holy Mother at Udbodhan House. She remarked upon seeing them, "Look at the power of the Master. These boys have been attracted by him. When the sun rises, the moon fades. During the full moon, only the big stars are visible, and they flicker dimly. When the moon sets, people see the sky studded with stars." Storytelling is an art. It conveys events in words and images. Like an expert storyteller, Holy Mother gave Ashu a vivid description of her journey through Telobelo, her encounter with a robber in February of 1877. Her account goes like this. The mother of Bhushan Mandal, Satyabhama, and some women planned to bathe in the Ganges on an auspicious occasion. I insisted that they accompany me. They would return to Jairambati after their holy bath, while I would stay with the master at Dakshineshwar. Lakshmi and Shibu also went with us. From Kamarpukur we reached Jahanabad, now Arambagh. Still there was daylight, so my companion did not stop there and moved onward. They said they would like to be able to cross the Telobelo meadow before evening. But I could not keep pace with them. My feet were aching. I was exhausted. I followed slowly behind him, and I was not accustomed to walking like them. I was limping and moving alone across that desolate and extensive meadow. I had heard during my childhood days that the meadow was infested with robbers. It was dusk. I continued to move forward. I had an eerie sensation in my body, and suddenly in the dark evening I saw a man coming toward me. He had shaggy hair and silver bangles on his wrists. He was tall and thin and held a staff in one hand. I came to a stop, and I had goosebumps all over my body. The man belonged to the Bhakti caste. Like a rude robber, he asked me in a harsh voice, "Who are you?" and then stared at me with his mouth open. Meanwhile, his wife arrived. When I saw a woman, I gained some strength, and I said, "Father, I am Sarada. I am your daughter. I am going to your son-in-law. My companions have gone forward without me. Please escort me to them." Stories have been told and retold, or they die. Holy Mother immortalized her robber story with her own words. In Chapter 5, this story has been narrated elaborately by Swami Sharadananda. The three types of teachings. Anybody have any questions or anything that touched them or was inspiring or something to share? Right.
Maharaj, I was reminded about the hymn that you used to sing when Sri Ma looked at the photo, her own photo, and touched her head.
Mm,
It's Ramakrishna Gata Prana, that hymn that, you know, that's why I guess, she was full of Ramakrishna.
mm. Yeah, very much.
Ramakrishna Gata Pranam, Tannama Shavana Priyam, Tadbhava
Yes.
Jitakaram Pranamami.
Yes. So she was filled of Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna was filled of her. Holy Mother's teachings are both concise and precise. She did not use many parables, stories, or scriptural quotations, but referred to her own experiences. She often quoted sayings of Ramakrishna. Manada Shankar Dasgupta, a disciple and biographer of Holy Mother, classified the Mother's teaching into three groups. First, short and clear. Second, the gospel of hope and fearlessness. And third, simple and classic. Here are some examples from each of the groups of teachings. First one, short and clear. Questioner, Mother, how shall I meditate? Mother, just think of the Master. Questioner, how shall I practice spiritual discipline? My son, at the end, the mind becomes the guru. Sadhana means to keep the mind on God and to be absorbed in Him. Repeat His name. Questioner, is it of any use merely to repeat His name without intense devotion? Mother, whether you jump into the water or are pushed into it, your cloth will get wet. Meditate every day. Constant meditation will make the mind one-pointed. Questioner, what is the goal of human life? Mother, the goal of human life is to realize God and to be absorbed in Him. Questioner, the Master used to say, I have made the mold, now you may cast the image. What does this mean? Mother, to cast the image means to meditate on the Master, to think of the various incidents of his life. Second category, the gospel of hope and fearlessness. Questioner, Mother, I cannot concentrate my mind in meditation at all. Mother, it does not matter much. Look at the picture of the Master, and that will be enough. One should cultivate constant recollectedness. Questioner, I cannot calm my mind and concentrate. Mother, the mind will be steadied of itself if aspirants repeat God's name 15,000 or 20,000 times a day. I myself have experienced it. All right, there's your homework. Questioner, my mind becomes restless now and then. It craves enjoyment. That frightened me. Mother, don't be afraid. I tell you that in this Kali Yuga, mental sin is no sin. Free your mind from all worries on this account. Questioner, however I may try to remove evil thoughts, I do not succeed. Mother, this is the result of what you have done in your past life. Can anyone altogether destroy lust? A little of it remains as long as one has a body, but it can be subdued, as a snake can be subdued by charmed dust. Holy Mother said to a disciple, do not fear, my child. Always remember that the Master is behind you. I am also with you. As long as you remember me, your mother, why should you be frightened? The Master said to me, at the end of their life, I shall certainly liberate those who come to you. There you have another promise. Mother herself will meet you to set you free when you leave, when you drop your body. The third category, simple and classic. Questioner, Mother, the mind is very restless. In no way can I steady it. Mother, as the wind removes the clouds, so the name of God destroys the cloud of worldliness. Questioner, Mother, I have practiced austerity and japa so much, but I have not achieved anything. Mother, God is not like a fish or a vegetable that you can buy for a price. Questioner, how can one realize God? Through worship, japa, or meditation? Mother, God is realized only through his grace. Nonetheless, one must perform japa and meditation, for they remove the impurities of one's mind. As one gets the fragrance of a flower by handling it, or the scent of sandalwood by rubbing it against a stone, similarly one becomes spiritually awakened by continuously contemplating the divine. But you can become illumined right now if you become desireless. To a restless disciple who wanted to return the mantra, Holy Mother said, "Look here, my child. The sun dwells high in the sky and water remains on the earth. Does the water have to shout at the sun and ask, 'Oh, sun, please take me up'? It is the very nature of the sun to take up the water in the form of vapor. Let me assure you that you will not have to practice any discipline." Questioner, does the master really live in the picture? Mother, of course he does. The body and the shadow are the same. And what is his picture but a shadow? If you pray to him constantly before his picture, then he manifests himself through that picture. All right, we'll stop there for the day.